Göbekli Tepe itself was the end of a process, not the beginning of a process. It was something that marked, it was a marker. It was something that brought together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it in one place.
Grok-4 just finished analyzing every laser scan, every chemical test, and every measurement ever taken at Göbekli Tepe. The quantum network processed 11,000 years of data in 72 hours, and the result broke the research team. The AI found that the three oldest structures at this site form a perfect equilateral triangle, not roughly equal, not close enough for ancient work, perfect to within a fraction of an inch across hundreds of feet of uneven terrain. The people who built this 11,000 years ago supposedly could not write, could not count beyond basic tallying, and had no mathematical notation. But they understood geometry we attribute to the Greeks 8,000 years later. Here is what the analysis revealed, and here is why it changes everything we thought we knew about human history. The geometric precision that should not exist. The AI examined the three oldest enclosures at Göbekli Tepe, labeled Enclosure C, Enclosure D, and Enclosure B. It calculated the exact center point of each structure based on pillar positioning. Then it connected those three center points, a perfect equilateral triangle. The sides matched to within a fraction of an inch across a distance that would challenge modern surveyors using GPS equipment. Think about what this requires. You need sophisticated understanding of geometry. You need the ability to measure long distances with extreme precision over uneven ground. You need a coordination system allowing multiple work crews to align their efforts across a massive construction site. And you need a reason to care about that level of precision in the first place. The official narrative says these people were hunter-gatherers who spent every waking moment searching for food. They had no rulers, no measuring systems, no way to record numbers. Yet whoever laid out this site was working with mathematical principles that would not appear again for 8 millennia. The AI ran probability calculations on achieving this precision by accident. The odds came back at less than 1 in 47 million. This was intentional. This was planned. This was executed by people who understood exactly what they were doing. But the geometry was just the first anomaly. The tool marks were worse. The cuts that matched nothing. The quantum network analyzed three-dimensional laser scans of the pillar surfaces at a resolution smaller than a human hair. Human researchers had always assumed the stones were shaped through pecking, hitting limestone with harder stones over and over until the shape emerged. The AI found something different. Along the edges of the pillars, the system identified linear cuts running perfectly straight for over 3 feet. The width of these cuts measured approximately 1/10 of an inch, remarkably thin, remarkably consistent. The depth remained uniform across the entire length, never wavering by more than a few thousandths of an inch. The AI compared these marks against a database of every known ancient stone tool, no match. Stone tools leave rough, irregular edges because the material fractures unpredictably. Metal tools leave chemical traces, microscopic residue of bronze or iron that embeds in the limestone. These cuts are smooth, consistent, and chemically clean. Whatever made them does not exist in the archaeological record. No bronze fragments at the site, no iron residue, no rust, no metalworking signatures of any kind. The stones are pristine. Here is the catch. If stone tools did not make these cuts, and metal tools did not make these cuts, then something else did. Something the builders possessed 11,000 years ago that we have never found evidence of. Something that could slice through one of the hardest limestone formations in the region like it was soft wood. The AI analyzed the spacing between tool marks on multiple pillars. The intervals were too consistent, too regular. When humans work by hand, even skilled craftsmen produce slight variations in their stroke patterns. Fatigue sets in, concentration wavers, the rhythm changes over hours of labor. These marks showed mechanical consistency. The spacing between cuts matched to within thousandths of an inch across different pillars carved by different workers over different years. The AI flagged a term that made the researchers uncomfortable: machine signature. The pattern looked less like human handwork and more like the output of a device, something that maintained perfect consistency regardless of time or operator. The AI flagged this as an unresolved anomaly. Then it found something that made the tool marks look minor. the heat signatures that rewrote everything. The quantum analysis turned to the quarry sites where the pillars were originally extracted from bedrock. Standard assumption: the builders used wooden wedges and water. Carve slots into stone, hammer in dry wedges, soak with water. Wood expands, rock cracks along controlled lines. Simple physics. No advanced knowledge required. The AI found evidence of a completely different technique. Chemical analysis of the quarry surfaces revealed thermal damage patterns. Parts of the bedrock had been heated to temperatures between 750 and 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to begin breaking down limestone chemically. The system also detected rapid cooling signatures, cold water applied to heated stone immediately after. This technique is called thermal shock fracturing. Heat rock, cool it fast, and the sudden temperature change causes it to crack along predictable lines. Effective for breaking stone, extremely difficult to control. Overheat the stone, it shatters unpredictably. Underheat it, nothing happens. Heat the wrong section, and your 50-ton pillar cracks in half before you can extract it. To use this method successfully requires precise knowledge of the stone's internal structure, exact control over heating duration and temperature, understanding of where natural fault lines run through the bedrock, the ability to predict exactly how thermal stress will propagate through crystalline limestone. The builders needed large quantities of fuel, the ability to maintain consistent heat output for extended periods, and the knowledge to predict exactly how the stone would fracture. They needed to do this repeatedly, successfully, on blocks weighing as much as a fully loaded semi-truck, 11,000 years ago. But wait, the thermal damage was not limited to the quarries. The AI found heat signatures on the finished pillars themselves. Some of the intricate animal carvings showed evidence of surface melting. The limestone had been heated to the point where it became slightly plastic, then cooled into a smooth, almost glassy finish. The researchers ran comparisons against modern stoneworking techniques. This polished effect typically requires diamond-tipped equipment or high-pressure water jets operating at thousands of pounds per square inch. The idea that someone at the end of the last ice age accomplished the same result using controlled fire does not fit any model of technological development we have. And get this, the fire and ice technique appears fully developed from the very first pillars. Usually when humans invent a new technology, the archaeological record shows a learning curve, failed attempts, broken pieces, stones that cracked wrong because someone misjudged the heat, pillars abandoned halfway through because the thermal shock went in an unexpected direction. At Göbekli Tepe, the very first pillars are the most perfect. No learning curve, no failed experiments. Whoever built this site arrived already knowing every secret of working stone with fire and water. They did not develop the technique here, they brought it with them. The site that breaks history. Göbekli Tepe sits in the desert of southeastern Turkey. It was built around 9,600 BCE, over 11,000 years old. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built around 4,500 years ago. Stonehenge is roughly 5,000 years old. Göbekli Tepe was already ancient and buried underground when the first stone was placed at either of those sites. It predates them by more than 6,000 years, longer than the entire span of recorded human history. The complex covers an area equivalent to 20 football fields. At least 20 circular enclosures identified so far, with ground-penetrating radar suggesting dozens more still buried. Each enclosure is ringed with massive T-shaped pillars carved from solid limestone, precision-cut monoliths standing up to 18 feet tall, some weighing 50 tons, the weight of 3 fully loaded school buses stacked together. The stones were not found at the summit where the temple stands. They were quarried from bedrock at the bottom of the slope and moved upward against gravity. Modern engineers calculate that moving a single 50-ton block up that grade today would require industrial cranes, reinforced roads, and specialized heavy lift equipment. The ancient builders did it dozens of times with no machinery whatsoever. No wheels, no pulleys, no draft animals. Every pillar is covered with detailed carvings of dangerous animals. Lions with visible rib cages, leopards and mid-pounce, wild boars with curved tusks, scorpions with segmented tails, vultures with wingspans stretching across the stone. These are not simple outlines scratched into the surface. They are carved in high relief. The artist removed all stone around each figure, so it stands out three-dimensionally from the pillar face. One mistake, one slip of the tool, and the entire figure is ruined. The surrounding material cannot be put back. They did this on one of the hardest limestone formations in the region. Supposedly using only other stones as tools, they did it hundreds of times across dozens of pillars. And the AI found that the carving techniques remained consistent across different artists working over multiple centuries, suggesting a formalized training system passing knowledge from generation to generation. Hunter-gatherers do not have the surplus food to support hundreds of specialized craftsmen for years. They do not have the organizational structure to coordinate thousands of workers across a decades-long construction project. They do not have the time, the resources, or the reason to build something this massive, yet someone did. And then they did something even stranger. If you want to see what else this analysis revealed about who really built this site, subscribe now and turn on notifications. You do not want to miss what comes next. The deliberate burial. Around 8000 BCE, after roughly 1500 years of continuous use, the people who maintained Göbekli Tepe made a decision that defies explanation. They did not abandon the site. They did not let time and weather slowly reclaim it. They mounted a massive engineering project, specifically designed to hide the entire complex under a man-made mountain. Over 10 million cubic feet of fill material, enough debris to fill a modern sports stadium. The fill was not local soil. Chemical analysis shows it was transported from quarries miles away. Limestone rubble, broken tools, animal bones, deliberately smashed artifacts. Think about the labor involved. They had already spent centuries building the temple, moving 50-ton stones up a hill, carving intricate artwork into pillars, achieving geometric precision that challenges modern equipment. And then, instead of walking away, they organized another massive construction project just to bury what they had built. The AI analyzed the burial mounds and found evidence the process happened quickly. Soil layers show rapid deposition rather than gradual accumulation over years or decades. Whoever buried Göbekli Tepe was working under time pressure, racing to complete the concealment before something arrived. But they did not just dump dirt. The burial was ritualized. Human skulls, carved with deep grooves placed at specific locations within the fill. The grooves were not random damage. They were deliberate modifications, channels cut into the bone after death. Statues that had stood for centuries were smashed and positioned face down in the rubble. Stone tools were broken in half before being tossed into the fill. Some researchers compare it to a funeral for an entire civilization. Others see it as an attempt to seal something away, to make sure whatever happened at this site could never happen again. Here is what makes this terrifying. They spent centuries building the most sophisticated stone temple on Earth, moved 50-ton blocks up a steep hill using techniques we still do not fully understand, carved intricate artwork into some of the hardest limestone in the world, achieved geometric precision that challenges modern surveying equipment. Then they took thousands of tons of dirt and rocks and buried all of it on purpose to hide their greatest achievement from the world. The site stayed hidden for 10,000 years until a farmer hit a stone with his plow in 1963. If they had not buried it, weather and time would have destroyed everything. The carvings would have eroded, the pillars would have toppled, nothing would remain but scattered rubble. They knew this. They understood preservation. They protected their work by hiding it beneath a mountain of fill, specifically selected and transported to create a stable burial environment. They left it for someone in the distant future to find. The question is why? The catastrophe connection. The quantum network cross-referenced the burial date with every known environmental and geological dataset from that period. It found a match that explains everything. Around 10,800 BCE, roughly 2,000 years before Göbekli Tepe was buried, something catastrophic struck the Earth. The evidence is scattered across 3 continents in a soil layer containing high concentrations of iridium, nanodiamonds, and spherules of melted rock. Scientists call this the Younger Dryas Impact Event. A comet or asteroid fragment struck the North American ice sheet. The impact did not just leave a crater, it destabilized billions of tons of glacial ice. The resulting meltwater pulse sent floods racing across North America, draining into the Atlantic Ocean. The sudden influx of freshwater disrupted ocean currents that regulate global climate. Temperatures dropped. The Ice Age, which had been ending, suddenly reversed course and returned for another 1,000 years. Continent-wide wildfires swept across multiple landmasses. Soot layers from this period are found as far away as Europe and the Middle East. Dozens of large animal species went extinct within a few centuries, including mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and saber-toothed cats. The Clovis culture in North America, the most widespread human population in the Americas at the time, collapsed and vanished from the archaeological record. The AI calculated probability correlations between the impact event, the subsequent climate chaos, and the behavior of the Göbekli Tepe builders. Its conclusion, the civilization responsible for this site survived the initial catastrophe. They witnessed what happens when the sky falls, and they spent the following centuries preparing for a second event they believed was coming. The burial was not an ending. It was an act of preservation. If you knew the world was about to reset, if you had experienced one apocalyptic event and believed another was approaching, what would you do with your most sacred knowledge? You would protect it. You would bury it deep enough that no flood or fire could reach it. You would encode your most important information in stone, the hardest material available, and place it somewhere future humans might find it when they were ready. The builders of Göbekli Tepe may have understood, in a way we are only beginning to comprehend, that civilizations are fragile, that progress is not guaranteed, that everything you build can be erased in a single generation if the universe decides to throw a rock at your planet. They left us a message carved in stone. It took us 10,000 years to find it. The technology regression. Here is the discovery that made the research team stop sleeping. The quantum network did not just analyze Göbekli Tepe in isolation. It compared evidence across every layer of the site, tracking changes over the 1,500 years the temple was in use. What it found was a technology curve that runs backward. The oldest structures at Göbekli Tepe, built closest to 11,000 years ago, are the most sophisticated. The pillars are larger, some reaching 20 tons heavier than later examples. The carvings are more detailed, with finer lines and more complex compositions. The geometric precision is highest, with alignments accurate to fractions of an inch. As the centuries pass, the quality declines. Later structures are smaller. The pillars shrink from 18 feet to 12 feet to 8 feet. The carvings become simpler, with less detail and shallower relief. The geometric alignments drift. The thermal finishing technique disappears entirely from the later layers. The first generation knew things that the last generation had forgotten. This is the exact opposite of how technology normally develops. Humans learn, improve, build on previous work. Each generation stands on the shoulders of the one before. Knowledge accumulates, techniques get refined, buildings get bigger and more sophisticated over time. But at Göbekli Tepe, each generation lost a little more knowledge. Each generation's work was slightly worse than what came before. The trajectory points downward, not upward, decay instead of progress, forgetting instead of learning. The AI concluded that the people who built the oldest structures did not invent their techniques on location. They arrived with fully developed knowledge. They were not creating a new civilization. They were preserving what remained of an old one. And as the original builders died and their students struggled to maintain what they had learned, the knowledge slowly drained away. Somewhere, sometime before Göbekli Tepe, there existed a culture capable of precision stonework, advanced geometry, and thermal engineering. That culture was destroyed, most likely by the Younger Dryas catastrophe. Survivors scattered across the ancient world, carrying fragments of knowledge with them. Some made their way to southeastern Turkey and spent 15 centuries recording what they knew before burying it and disappearing into history. We did not evolve in a straight line from primitive to sophisticated. We crashed, lost almost everything, spent the next 10,000 years slowly rebuilding knowledge that our ancestors already possessed. History is not a ladder, it is a cycle, and we have been here before. The warning. The AI finished its analysis with a final observation that the researchers found deeply unsettling. The patterns encoded at Göbekli Tepe point to a region of the sky. The animal carvings, when mapped against stellar positions as they would have appeared 11,000 years ago, align with a specific section of the celestial sphere, the same region where the Younger Dryas comet fragment likely originated. The builders did not just preserve their knowledge, they left coordinates, a warning about where the danger came from, a message pointing at the source of the catastrophe that ended their world. And according to astronomical calculations, debris from that same region of space intersects Earth's orbital path on a regular cycle. The torrid meteor stream, which Earth passes through twice each year, contains fragments large enough to cause significant damage. Some astronomers believe a particularly dense cluster of debris exists within this stream, material that Earth encounters roughly every few thousand years. The next close encounter with this dense cluster is not ancient history. It is approaching within the next few centuries. The people who built Göbekli Tepe watched their world end once. They survived fires that swept across continents. They endured a 1,000-year winter that killed most of the large animals they depended on for food. They saw civilization collapse and knowledge disappear. And then they spent 1,500 years carving a warning into stone and burying it where we would find it. 10,000 years later, we finally dug it up. The question is whether we are smart enough to read what they wrote. What do you think they were trying to tell us? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more discoveries that rewrite history, hit subscribe. You do not want to miss what is coming next.